I had a question about doing the ayahuasca. I've done DMT, and is it anything close to it? I just wanted to know the similarities with it because it's kind of the same thing.
Thank you for the question there. I appreciate it. And, my experience, DMT was very much like somebody kicked you, like beat you in the head with a Dave and Buster's. That's what it's like. It was like two angry gay dudes attacked you at a Dave and Buster's. Because you're seeing all these crazy shapes. There's a lot of rainbows. There's some bears. There's some stuff that look like a orifice or whatever. It has a very kind of a booty carnival type of dirty, magnificent, colorful. It's like it's like God hit you with a mirror, but he hit you hard and he hit you fast. And the cops showed up. And all that, and the cops are from heaven and hell, and it all happened in a matter of minutes. That, to me, was DMT. A lot of that. And you end up fucking sitting there talking to like an oyster or something. Just some shit that you're like, I don't know what this is, And they got a koala over there, and he's puffing Winston's, bro. He's doing his best. And he's out of work, probably. I'm sure Chipotle is trying to hire him to work next to that vamp kid who can't handle the frickin'. You ask him one question, he's like, I don't know. I need to sleep. That was DMT for me, man. DMT was like somebody took a pinball machine and buried you in it. They opened the glass up and put you in there, and the game is still going on. There's still somebody hitting the paddles. The balls are scooting around, and it's multi-ball. Somebody accessed a multi-ball. So they're all, and then you're just laying, and they put the glass back on, and you're laying in there, face down. That, to me, is DMT. That's what DMT was like. It's a couple minutes. You come out of it. You're in Maui. The guy who's doing it with you, you met at a smoothie stand. He's a good guy. He gave you some magnesium. It is what it is. Ayahuasca is like a key, I think. It's like an invitation. You take it, you sit there, you're meditating. There's no party about it. There's nothing like we're going to do this in a back room at a party. That's not. Now, you can still do it in a back room, but it's more of a experience. And it's a longer experience. And it's really, you start to learn about yourself. You learn some truths about yourself. I was sitting there, and people are like, did you go to Peru? Did you go to, Myanmar or whatever? Like, dude, I did that shit right off the 101, bro. I did that. I was probably 180 yards from a Popeyes chicken, in a DSW shoes, dude. I could see, there were moments in some of my visions and stuff that somebody would, walk by with a damn pair of Birkenstocks on. So I was, I wasn't out in the abyss, but the environment I was in was really nice, in the sense that it had a great shaman and great people doing it. And I'm sitting in there, and you take the medicines, and it's almost like your heart starts to dream or think. And it's really wild because you start to get thoughts that come out of it's almost like they come out of the time that's trapped inside of you. It's like your heart gets a brain. I remember sitting there and you just start to go, it's like a best friend shows up. and starts to share stuff with you that you're willing to hear because you, usually because you've been suffering with something, you know? And so it starts to kind of unearth some of that. And you go through the different experiences and you're like, man, that was a lot. You know, I learned a lot of stuff about myself. It's like therapy, but you don't have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. I mean, it's like the goddess, you know, like God brings the wood right up to your, you know, the firewood. You don't have to go out and chop. You just open the door and it's all firewood. You can't even see the world. It's just all your firewood is right there. And God has chopped it for you. And so you could, so at that point, it's really an invitation. It's like, how much do you want to know? That's what it feels like to me. How much do you want to know? My last experience, man, I went and, you know, I'd really been struggling with a lot of stuff about my mother and my relationship with my mother and my inability to have a connection with my mother, a deep connection. You know, I'd always wanted it. And so I'm sitting there under the ayahuasca and I've always struggled in relationships, commitment. I've really always struggled. And while I'm under this ayahuasca, while I'm in the experience of the medication, I realized that the reason I have trouble getting into a relationship or being committed, well, there's two reasons. One is that part of me is still waiting for this relationship with my mother to really come through. There's part of me that's still like this young kid that's still just standing there waiting for his mother to really connect with him. And so it's really hard for me to make another commitment to another woman. It's really hard for me. And I didn't know it was because there's a part of me that's still just literally standing there waiting. And that sounds kind of crazy, but when you're under the medication, it makes a lot of sense because it really activates the inner child in you. And you really get to see what the very young you, the formative you, what he or she went through. And you see why they went through it and how it affected them and then how that affects you now. It's almost like as an adult, you're a plant. But on ayahuasca, you get to go back to the seed. And you get to look in the seed. And the seed gets to communicate. The seed communicates with you. The you, the early you, the formative you. But so it's a lot different in that sense. You really get to sit there and be with a lot of the things that have made you uncomfortable. But now you're able to see, okay, this is why I behave this way as an adult because this happened when I was young. And you always can kind of, in therapy, sometimes you'll talk about those things, but to really have a real connection between them and to really feel that connection is pretty powerful. And also it's an invitation in a way because ayahuasca is an invitation because it's really how much of that stuff do you want to learn and go into? Because it feels like there's a lot of it. My second experience, I sat there for probably, I can't even tell you. I mean, just tons of time. I was just grieving, just crying. I was grieving like, when I was 12 or 10, my brother, he got to go live with my grandparents. And that sounds like a small thing, but that broke my heart. It broke my heart as a kid that my mother let him go. It really, because he was the closest thing that I felt to love, or to a real friend or something. And here was my mother, and she let him go. just do what he wanted, like he was an adult. It just was, and that shit broke my heart, man. So, but there's a lot of things inside of you that you've been resilient through. But you're able to go and look at those things and kind of let the air out of some of those balloons, you know. It's like your soul gets to fart, kind of. You know, you're able to go and unpack a lot of these things that really could have really and probably had a big effect on your life and how you behave now. So anyway, it's tough because it's hard for me to go into some of that. You know, a lot of it's real painful. I went and spoke with my mom after the holidays about, about a lot of the feelings I was having, and and about how much I felt neglected, really, and it was hard, man. I'm glad I was able to give myself a voice, but it was tough. Because it was also a long time ago, you know, and so you don't want to damage the person you're talking to or upset, you know, but you do want to share what's going on and what you're feeling and learning. So that's ayahuasca, man. If you want ayahuasca, you're going to go down you could go down, you know, a real rabbit hole. A real invitation to say, okay, how much? Because you can keep going and doing it. And that's where I'm at now. I don't know if I want to go back sometimes right now. I mean, the last time I went, man, it was cathartic, but it was damn painful, man. It was painful. It was cathartic in the way you sit there and, you know, you cry for the things that you get those tears, all the shit that's in you, get it out. You get it out. You cook it right up out of your system. But it's a lot of work. I mean, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. It's like, I would imagine it's like boot camp or something, but for your heart and for your soul and stuff. So, I don't know if that does a good job of explaining it, but that's some of the differences I noticed between them. One of them is like going to a carnival, and the other one is like going to, it's like going into an ocean. So that's my thoughts on the difference between, I think, DMT and ayahuasca. Is ayahuasca can really, I mean, DMT shows you that, you know, DMT is like kind of like a firework kind of, but ayahuasca is a damn fucking Jesus. It's a fire. It's a fire, man. Hope you enjoyed that video. And you can watch another, and you can watch this one, you can watch this one. Different options, different choices. Some guy just brings you one option, not this guy. Two options. Watch one, this one or this one.